What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers are about to enter July. We are weeks away from the arrival at St. Vincent College and the beginning of training camp. So much, so little going on. Anticipation is high, but there's some news from over the weekend, and we're going to dive into it. We're starting with a list that is as wild as one list can possibly get. Another wide receiver who is making it known he wants to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers should listen to one analyst and really, truly go all the way in 2025, it's a good one here in the Berg. As everybody sees, did a little change up in the office this weekend, and I'm not going to lie, I was very excited to display it, expecting the worst, to be really honest. I'm glitches, something breaks, one of these pictures falls, something will happen throughout this podcast. I almost guarantee it. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody's doing well. How you feeling, my friend?
I am feeling good. Loving the new setup, by the way. And I know this is a Steelers podcast, but are the Pittsburgh Pirates back? what a weekend that was for the Buccos, them battling Bucks. I'm doing all right. Coming off watching the Pirates score 30 runs in a weekend series is crazy.
Yes.
Feeling good. Kind of filled the abyss of no Steelers football, no crazy news over the weekend as well.
Agreed.
So, I'm doing all right, and it's another Monday, another week closer to training camp. So I got to be honest, brother, I'm doing all right. So,
I'm glad. I'm glad.
The bright lights behind you, all the natural light coming in. It's good. It's good stuff. It's good
stuff. I will say that every single one of these paintings, not glare if you turn around, it's actually fantastic. But shout out to light, man. It's here. I'm excited for it. I was telling you before the show, I'll tell everybody else, I was in a cave before this. Like everything was reworked, and my desk was essentially just like pinned to a corner. I had to crawl through this little space to get in. I had about 4 pounds to give or take before I was like, dude, you're not fitting through this little crack anymore. Everything's got to be readjusted. So it was a good time. I'll ask you before we start diving into it. When you start a home project, okay, are you, this goes until it's over, whether that's 1 a.m. or noon, or are you we'll stop and give it a break guy?
Oh, I'm a big stop and give it a break guy, and my wife does not care for it one bit because she is the complete opposite. And she's like, let's just keep going until this is done. And I'm like, well, we might be fresher if we kind of take a break, get a little water, maybe have a snack, and then we can come back with our best selves. So, yeah, I like to give it time. Good things take time. Patience is a virtue, as they say. So, I'm probably not the best to do an IKEA project with.
I was going to say, I'm a strong 2 a.m. guy. I came walking downstairs. I feel bad because I have an electric toothbrush and it's loud, obviously. So I came back downstairs about 1:45 last night, finally done with this. I think I started the project at like 1 p.m. and I turn my thing on and my wife wakes up and she goes, are you just coming to bed? Actually, what she said was, she was like, what time is it? And I just instantly lied. And I was like, oh, it's 11:30. She's like, ah, cool. And I was like, yeah. It's not unreasonably late. I promise. So again, something will break, but appreciate you. Excited to be here. Let's start with some Pittsburgh Steelers of the past who probably holds a little bit more ground than those of the current, but not everybody feels the same way. Tyler Dune, who is a longtime NFL journalist and columnist, a guy that's well respected in the NFL world, came up with his rankings of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in NFL history. Tom Brady tops that list. Patrick Mahomes is number 2. I don't think either of those come as a surprise. As you get deeper into the teens, things do become a bit shocking. You start to look at names and go, all right, Terry Bradshaw, cool. Aaron Rodgers, cool. Josh Allen, there's an argument. Where's Ben Roethlisberger? Ben Roethlisberger is behind the one and the only current MVP of the NFL, Josh Allen, coming in at number 16 to Allen's 15. And this is what Tyler Dune had to say about the Buffalo Bills quarterback compared to the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. He's the number 1, number 2, and number 3 reason these Buffalo Bills are in perennial title contention. Teammates en masse would run through the nearest cement wall for Allen. When it's all said and done, if he can hoist a Lombardi or two, we may all discuss Allen with the very best who ever played the position. He had this to say about good old Ben Roethlisberger. This is what he has to say about Allen while mentioning Roethlisberger. There's no comp because no quarterback in NFL history remotely resembles the force of nature cannon blasting through defenses in Western New York. You need to go full Dr. Frankenstein, piecing together Ben Roethlisberger's size, Brett Favre's right arm, with an A-level mix of brains and elusiveness and athleticism. But the greatest trait Allen possesses is an abundance of fearlessness. I will ask you, because I had an instant reaction of wrong when I read this list, your thoughts when Josh Allen, which I'm not going to argue, Josh Allen top 15, cool, there's an argument to be made. I think Ben's above Terry Bradshaw, if we're going to be really honest. I think he's a better quarterback than Terry Bradshaw was. You bring 4 Super Bowls into contention, and there's an argument to be made that Terry sits above Ben on the list. But you also bring that same argument to Josh Allen versus Ben Roethlisberger and say, Josh is 1-0, Ben does 0, Ben to 3-1-2. Pretty impressive stuff. Ben 16 to Josh Allen's 15. I don't know, your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I had a very similar no sort of reaction when I first started reading this, because I love Josh Allen. Let's not make this a kick Josh Allen sort of situation here. He is the reigning MVP. He's an incredible quarterback. There's no knocking Josh Allen in any sort of way. He is the sort of evolution of what Ben Roethlisberger was the intermediate step for, a decade ago. Because everything Josh Allen does now in his prime, people were saying about Ben Roethlisberger during his prime, and he won 2 Super Bowls. And you can, say that it wasn't just his performance that won the first Super Bowl, which agreed, it was a very incredible team that won in 2005 or 2006 or whatever it was. And it was not solely on Ben Roethlisberger leading this team, but he was that sort of athletic, big-armed quarterback who was, untackleable. You could not bring him down. And he was doing all these things, again, that Josh Allen is currently in the midst of dominating the league by doing. So I agree that Josh Allen is an incredibly talented and elite quarterback, the best of the best right now. The hardware individually, sure, I will concede that to Josh Allen as well. I think Super Bowls are a little bit more important whenever we're talking about the best quarterbacks of the Super Bowl era.
Yes.
So how Josh Allen gets above Ben Roethlisberger today in the middle of June of 2025, or almost July of 2025, I don't understand how Josh Allen is demonstrably better than Ben Roethlisberger's career.
That's
Will he be? Probably.
But probably,
right
I think even probably though, I don't know, you're going to have to win a Super Bowl. You have to win a Super Bowl to pass Ben. And until he does, you're not there, you're not. Ben is a guy that, and I laugh because at the same time, I think Shady McCoy was out here slamming Ben over his Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes take, saying oh, Ben was never even the greatest of his time, as in LaShawn McCoy was. And you look at it and go, Ben's 5th all time in passing yards ever. He's got 2 Super Bowls, which granted, one of the greatest defenses of all time. I totally understand that. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, but they weren't around. I mean, Santonio Holmes was the guy who caught that pass against Arizona. It wasn't and don't get me wrong, Holmes, great wide receiver, not a Hall of Famer by no means. It just feels like Ben is a guy who's never had the attention, and because of that will always be overlooked. But you're spot on in saying that this was the talk of Ben early in his career, was Ben's a specimen. We've never seen anything like this before. The problem is that we saw it before. Cam Newton came, and then you saw it then, and you said, oh, we've never seen anything like this before. Josh Allen comes, we've never seen anything like this before. They're all the same player. They're all the same guy. Different in a little bit of ways. Yeah, definitely. All the same player. Ben, in my eyes, is above Josh. And again, nothing against Josh Allen. You got to win some Super Bowls, pal. You got to win Super Bowls before I could sit here and say you're top 15, above some of these greats, because I'm not going to put you above Terry Bradshaw yet. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I think, was like 12th on the list. I'm not going to put you above Aaron Rodgers, which I think is another argument you made. I'd have to go look at the top 10, but I think Drew Brees is in the top 10. And I'm sorry, man, but A-Rod, if we're just going, if the list is how crazy are these quarterbacks, how physically dominant are they? Aaron Rodgers is the most physically dominant quarterback outside of Patrick Mahomes I think we've ever seen. And
Fair.
he just hasn't, he didn't win. He didn't have the Tom Brady factor of his career. And if we're going to compare him and Drew, I think that he's got the list itself is a wild one, but I'm glad that we're in a bit of agreement there. Let's transition here to some wide receiver. Over the weekend, there was another noise on offense, or news on offense. This one comes at the wide receiver position. Tyler Boyd, former Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver and Tennessee Titans wide receiver, played with Mason Rudolph last year as a member of the league worst Tennessee Titans, said he's quote unquote absolutely open to coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming home, a Clarion grad, Pitt star, second round pick for the Bengals. This dude was a guy when he was in the city of Pittsburgh. This is not the first year that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had the possibility of bringing back Tyler Boyd. It's the second. Every time that it happens, you question, is he the right fit? I think each year that passes, he becomes less and less of the dominant right fit that they're looking for. I'll ask you your opinion on if they should go get him, but I'll tell you this beforehand, and don't let this skew your opinion, obviously, but I have been told from last year, nothing new this year. But last year when the Steelers and the wide receiver Tyler Boyd were negotiating, there was somebody in the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room who holds a voice. I'm not going to give names. I don't know if I could pinpoint a name. I've never been told a name. I have speculation of who it is, but I've been told this, that there is somebody in Pittsburgh who has seen enough of Tyler Boyd talking smack on the Pittsburgh Steelers to say, I don't want him in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform. And that voice is big enough and loud enough and holds enough ground for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year to go, all right, sounds good. We're going to stop talking to him. And I don't know if things would change this year because people are ready to win a Super Bowl. But with that, I'll ask you, Tyler Boyd, 32 years old, I believe, 31, 32 years old, coming off his worst season in the NFL, but he played for the Titans. Everybody came off a bad season in Tennessee last year. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers consider him?
Sure. I think strictly for the hometown factor, Tyler Boyd is, I think, 31 or 32.
Yeah.
I will admit I have a sort of like personal sentimentality of it. He's around our age. Like, I remember watching clips of him being like a huge high school recruit, being an incredible college player at Pitt. To see another Pittsburgh athlete have success in the NFL, you kind of want to bring the hometown boys home. Like I'd be all for signing, Terrell Pryor and Miles Sanders too, for the same reasons. Like bring those Pittsburgh boys home. I would be fine with it. You don't even have to tell me a reason that it's going to help the team. I'm just like, yeah, get those boys in black and gold. That sounds fantastic.
Yes.
But in terms of, I think he is coming off a terrible year. Might be a little bit too hard, but coming out of Tennessee, it's very difficult to have a lot of bright spots.
Yes.
I think he would fill a need of sort of rounding out the depth of the wide receiver room. I don't think he would be a significant impact player for the wide receiver depth. I think he's kind of past the point of being a true wide receiver too.
Yes.
But again, I think it would fall in line with sort of this general arc I have with the Steelers wide receiving and passing game, where I think they just sort of need a complementary veteran that can help and bring in, be a reliable pass catcher when called upon. So it could work. I wouldn't be, banging down the door to get him on the team or to get him to training camp. I don't think he's a difference maker of that respect, but hell yeah, bring the Pittsburgh boy home. That sounds great to me.
Look I'll make this argument. I don't think Tyler Boyd changes anything. I honestly don't even think he's wide receiver 3 in Pittsburgh unless Roman stinks. But I think if you add a Tyler Boyd, you still have to go get somebody else. My argument for Tyler Boyd is if you realize at some point during training camp that Robert Woods is not good anymore. and you have to move on from Robert Woods because that's who Tyler Boyd is. He's the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, inside veteran who could play pretty much anywhere, has super reliable hands, isn't going to get you more than like 4 or 5 yards of play unless he's running a 10-yard clip. But he's just a guy that's going to be here. And on 3rd and 6, you could say Tyler Boyd might be a guy that's going to catch the football. That might be the guy. You have that in Robert Woods already, which I think is fine. But I don't know if Robert Woods is going to be good enough to make the team. Like I don't know how good Robert Woods is anymore. I don't know how good Tyler Boyd is anymore, but I do know that Tyler Boyd 2 years ago was still a decent wide receiver. Maybe Robert Woods is that same caliber. I don't know. They have a Tyler Boyd. His name's Robert Woods. If Robert Woods doesn't work out, I think Tyler Boyd comes in. I like Tyler Boyd over Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen only because it does not remove the need of a wide receiver 2. It does not calm you of, we got to go get somebody else. If you go get Amari Cooper and you go get Keenan Allen, my argument for them is, or against them is, you have the excuse of this is the guy opposite of DK Metcalf on the outside. You don't have that with the Tyler Boyd. You don't have that with the Robert Woods. And I think the Steelers need that to where they could go get a veteran with reliable hands and find the right veteran with reliable hands. Totally fine there. But you also have to have a guy that is opposite of DK, and I don't think that's Tyler Boyd, but I don't think the Steelers would look at Tyler Boyd in that fashion. I mean, that's a good, I guess, spin-off to this. Do you have any expectations for Robert Woods this season?
No. And I think it would be disingenuous to put any real expectations on him because he is here for a very specific role to fill, and that is having another veteran around, someone who could step in if Roman Wilson shows you that he's not quite ready, if anyone else fails to impress you of that long list of sort of players that have potential but we haven't quite seen yet. I think that it's very obvious that Robert Woods is here to catch some passes and not many. There is not an expectation of him being an 800-yard receiver or anything close to it. But I would love to see him, maybe catch 3 touchdowns on the season, just kind of sporadically throughout the season. And I know that's like a very low expectation, but I don't think that there should be any high bar set for him, not because he's a bad player or a bad addition or anything like that. He just is not really a focal point of the offense, and I don't think we should place an expectation that he might become one.
Yes, I agree. I think the best case for the Steelers is that Robert Woods looks good enough to play, but Roman Wilson looks clearly better. That Calvin Austin is head and shoulders above the pack. That's the best case scenario. And then worst case scenario for Robert Woods in my eyes is the Steelers realize Roman's good, Calvin's good. They went out and got another wide receiver. DK's the guy, and you're not getting rid of Ben Skoranek because he signed him to a 2-year deal and he's your special teamer. You don't need him. You don't need Robert Woods. You just move on. I think that's the best case scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think the alternative to that would just be you hope that these guys look good and Robert doesn't have to be anything more than wow, Robert Woods caught a pass this week. Forgot about him, but that was a good catch. Exactly. That was a good catch. Good way to go, Robert Woods. I agree with that one. I don't know if Tyler Boyd's on their agenda as much as he is on the Steelers. And if I had to guess, that player is still in the locker room that didn't want him here. I don't know. If you Google images of Tyler Boyd, there is a picture of him doing the crybaby thing with his helmet on in Heinz Field or in Acrisure Stadium. It's one of the first pictures that comes up. So there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of At one point, Tyler Boyd made it very known that the Pittsburgh Steelers culture is terrible and soft. So it just, yikes. Could be yikes. I'm not sure that Tyler Boyd's a guy that's going to end up in Pittsburgh. All right, let's finish our agenda with this one. The Pittsburgh Steelers. We've talked Aaron Rodgers. We've talked wide receiver 2. We've talked all these additions, moves, ways that they can make their team better, so on and so forth. Are they going to? That's the biggest question. Well, first things first, podcast or television show, made the argument that the Pittsburgh Steelers should be all in this season and that they should not hold back at all. They said this, I'm doing quote, if I'm doing a 1-year deal, excuse me, if I'm doing a 1-year thing with Aaron Rodgers, that's what you go all in for. I'm not saying you trade a future first round pick for a guy because you need ammo to move up in next year's quarterback. But why go halfway this year? Why do a half measure? He also said that he believes that Aaron Rodgers took a smaller salary because he's also under the impression that the Pittsburgh Steelers should do everything in their power to go and try to win a Super Bowl. I am all in on this theory, to be honest, but obviously it comes with tweaks and it's easier said than done, and there needs to be some guidelines. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers be all in? As I find that answer, I'll start to lay out some guidelines because I have some thoughts on how the Pittsburgh Steelers should approach all in this season. And it's not giving up a first round pick, but it comes pretty damn near close in my eyes.
Yeah. All in is a term that I think I struggle to accept right now. I think they need to be aggressive. I think they need to be very calculated in finding improvements. And there does need to be a sense of trying to improve this team to give Aaron Rodgers and company a true sense of being a contender, not just a contender in the sense of getting to the playoffs, and that's the end goal. They need to improve for sure. All in to me says something like, I would give up my first round pick in 2026, or I would give up multiple picks in the 2026 draft. I would be willing to part with a very important young piece like a Keanu Benton or a like Nick Herbig or something like that. Like players that we feel as an organization have a really strong upside. That is to me all in. So I don't want them to go quite nuclear in that approach, but I do want them to be aggressive. I'm great with a second round pick. I'm great with, maybe the right roster player. I like the aggressive sort of mentality. They need to get better. All in, I'm like not 100% there yet, but it sounds like you might have some guidelines that might be catering to my sort of hesitation.
Yeah, I think the Steelers have made it very clear that they want to be a team that's aggressive this season. Aggressive is a good word. They also understand what next year brings and the things that they need to do next year. And they've protected themselves up until this point. I don't think that's going to change. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have a really hard time believing will not end up with a first round early quarterback in 2026. And I think you'd have to pry it from their hands to do something different next offseason. But everything else, I think, should and could be on the table because, again, at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the way I look at it is the Pittsburgh Steelers don't need much moving forward. You got to find a wide receiver too, which maybe you're able to find this year via trade. You have to find a corner to play opposite of Joey Porter Jr., which isn't the hardest thing to do in the world. And you could figure that out. Besides that, you're going to have to figure out Minka and re-sign Minka. You got to get a deal done with TJ. That's going to happen soon. Cam's on the end of his line, but Keanu Benton and guys like Derek Harmon and Y.E. Black are all there and ready to replace him. Alex Highsmith will be up in a couple of years. Isaac Seumalo is next season. Jalen Warren, Calvin Austin, guys that you could re-sign for cheap. I truly believe. And you don't have, you got 2 years at least before everybody starts falling off. The Cole Holcomb deals, the Patrick Queen deals, the what are you doing with Joey Porter Jr. long term, all these questions start to emerge in 2 years. You got time to figure it out. And you're not looking to replace any of these guys. Like Steelers aren't looking to say, Joey Porter Jr. is 25. See you later, pal. We're good. We're not going to re-sign you. No, they're looking to keep him. If their plan, which they already have this mapped out, let's not act like they don't. If their plan is to make sure that this roster stays pretty intact moving forward, I think all in could include a second round pick this season. I think you could look at it and say, if the right wide receiver is there, if the right X player is there, and this guy could be a real deal breaker between getting to the playoffs and having a shot to beat the Josh Allens and the Lamar Jacksons and the Patrick Mahomes and the Jalen Hurtses. If that's the case, then yeah, why not go get him? Because the rest of this thing's intact. I think everything outside of a first round pick is my guideline of you can't give up the quarterback of the future, which is your first round pick, but you could give up everything else around him because you don't need much next season and you can make it work. That's how, if it was me and the right out, I'm not just doing it just to do it. I'm not calling the Saints and saying, Chris Olave, second round pick, you want it? Like, no, but if the right situation presented itself at the right moment, I'd go all in enough to say I'd give up everything but a first round pick this offseason.
Wow. Okay. With all that information, I absolutely think they should be all in, because I think, that is all in adjacent to me, which is fine.
Yes.
And that is where they need to be. If they were to say, screw it, we all our chips on the table, you do whatever you can because this is the only year we can win a Super Bowl, I think that would be a mistake. But a second round pick, that the Steelers have been they have found starters in the second round over the past few years for sure. So, there is some hesitation and some, drawbacks to parting with that second round pick. But if in return you get that wide
James Washington,
I was going to say there's also been some flubs for sure. So it's not a guarantee. And if that means giving up that second round pick means that you get that wide receiver too, who you can beat the secondary over the top or can distract or be a target outside of DK Metcalf in a playoff game against one of these really good AFC teams. I mean, a second round pick is worth it. It'll pay off in spades if that is what happens. So I'm all in that regard. And I think it has to be for a legitimate wide receiver too, not someone who's here just for the 2025 season, but beyond. And if that's what you get, beautiful. Well done.
I agree. I think that's the biggest. I'm not trading a second round pick for a one and done guy. Not happening. But I think that goes into all in. Like, I'm not trading for Terry McLaurin or Chris Olave or Romeo Dobbs or any of these guys and saying, well, we just need it for a year. Like, no, right. This is the wide receiver 2 for the next 4 years. I'm inking Calvin Austin to a super cheap deal at the end of the season. And I'm hoping Roman Wilson turns out to be good. And then I never have to worry about wide receiver again. I got 4 years before I got to even blink at the position, unless DK completely falls off. But I don't know who's out there. I think it comes down to timing. I think that's the hardest thing with this argument is everybody said, go all in, go all in, go all in. It's June, man. There's nothing. What are you going in for? Like nobody's available yet, but these names will become available. That's the biggest thing. These names will become available. You will have the random wide receiver 2s who aren't getting deals. You'll have the Chris Olave who is, maybe just trying to force his way into a contract, but things become a little bit serious. You'll have the names. I mean, somebody tossed in here, and we'll get to it in a little while, Justin Jefferson. What about Jordan Addison? What about a guy like Jordan Addison who also has to get paid really soon? And now you're looking at going, maybe, you never know. Again, I think it comes down to time, but I'm all in on it. You know what I mean? Tyreek Hill comes in here and says, for a third round pick, we'll make it happen. Yeah, all right. If that's what's going to give us an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, might as well at least consider the situation. Where I think in years past it was play it real easy. I think outside of the first round pick, everything should be on the table. Doesn't mean everything should happen. It just means every single thing should be on the table. Nothing should be shut down because the Pittsburgh, they should be. This is an all-in year. You have Aaron Rodgers. You didn't sign Aaron Rodgers to a cheap deal to say, we're just trying to win a playoff game. You're trying to win the damn Super Bowl. Like, that's what is it going to happen? I have no idea. Wouldn't guess that it's gonna, but that's this. Nobody in the city of Pittsburgh at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex is sitting around going, you know what, we have to temper this season. We just got Aaron, but he's a good cover up. No, they're sitting there going, they waited 3 months because they believe that's a guy that could win the Super Bowl. That's what they did it. Will it happen? I don't know. We'll see. But I agree with you. I think that's the guidelines. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, to go in quote unquote all in 2025. All right. With that said, guys, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to transition and start answering all your guys' questions. Make sure you toss them in the chat. First, we're going to take a quick break.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes black and gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
Alrighty. Shout out to all of our members. Shout out to our super chatters. Can't thank you guys enough. We're going to start with Eddie the First, gifting 5 All Steelers Talk memberships. Shout out if you snag them.
Oh,
Make sure that you are calling into the call-in show for Wednesday. And with that, I want to give a big congratulations to our boy Eddie the First. Got a promotion at work. When I eat, we eat. Appreciate you, my brother, and congratulations, my guy. Super big news. Great week here at AST, all because Eddie the First out here making big moves. For
go
sure.
Eddie.
For sure. Chris, to be all in, they need to give Watt his new deal. I agree. I'm also hearing, and this is, you want to, I'll give you the story. It's kind of, it's more interesting than just TJ is getting close. So I have heard that TJ and the Pittsburgh Steelers, that while they're not doing much talking right now, I mean, Mike T's on vacation. Omar Khan, I would guess, is doing the same. TJ's being a dad. Like, nobody cares. This is it. Like, we are in the black hole. Okay. We'll get out of it eventually, but we are in the black hole. NFL Network doesn't have television until July 14th. That's like in my eyes, that's when it's like, all right, now things become real again. Now things are real things. In the midst of that, it is being expected that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to ink TJ to a deal that's higher than Myles Garrett. And I have been told, and I wrote a story about this today, that, and Tom Pelissero was the first one to say it or acknowledge it, that the Steelers could ink it before the Bengals ink Trey Hendrickson, which in their eyes is just screwing the Bengals, because now Trey Hendrickson is looking at 30 million's cool. Oh no, never mind. Me and TJ are 2 months apart. We're the same guy. I had more sacks than him last year. I played more games the last couple of years. I'm gonna ask for 40. I'm gonna ask for 40 now. And really, and I've heard that they are aware that that is a real possibility. So shout out to the Pittsburgh, just always playing mind games. You know what I mean? Omar Khan's an assassin. He's an assassin, and you gotta hope for the best and with the moves he makes. But if it's TJ deserves all the pennies in the world, or all the pennies he's asking for. If it also kind of just gives you a little 1-2 jab to the kidney there for good old Cincinnati, I just think it's a win-win. I think it's a win-win for the city of Pittsburgh. Shout out.
Bengals fans getting wrecked right now. Between their arena deal got extended, and now they're gonna just have to watch Trey Hendrickson sit out even longer. This is not even me being facetious. Just genuinely feel bad for the Bengals fans right now. That is hell of an offseason they're struggling through right now.
I agree, and I will say, Cincinnati Bengals Stadium, the jungle, awful. Like, cool, whatever. I'm sure it's fine for the fans or whatever. Awful. The press box is literally it's one aisle of 200 people, just like, can't wait.
Lovely
story. It's disgusting. It's absolutely awful. Chris has another one here. Guys, Cordell Stewart was the only athletic quarterback the Steelers had other than Vic. Our pocket passers and game managers, all they trust due to Stewart. I think Cordell Stewart kind of came at the wrong time. If he was a today NFL quarterback, I think he's given way more of an opportunity than he had back then. Obviously, there was like all the crazy stuff that was happening off the field that he never deserved. And then you just looked at him and said, you just didn't, at that day and age, like Lamar Jackson would have been in the same boat. They would have been like, I don't know, man, this guy's way too athletic to play quarterback. I don't think they're ruined it. I think they're looking for more of a pocket passer where we sit here today. Like, I think that they want that. The opportunity just hasn't been presented to them, but I think it's really high on Mike Tomlin's list to get a guy who's just as mobile as he is, elegant with his arm. And I think that's their priority right now, in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, Justin Fields might be a rare exception of the sort of mold of a Steelers quarterback. But I agree with your statement that Tomlin definitely wants someone to be mobile. And I think even in the way that Ben Roethlisberger was, where it just is helpful to be able to get outside of the pocket and to be able to evade pressure whenever the play breaks down. I don't think the Steelers ever really want someone or a quarterback where their athleticism and they have an eye towards breaking out of the pocket and running being the first and most notable
Yes.
skill set of their quarterback, but it is something that I think if Tomlin's building his ideal quarterback, it's someone who has, both. And it's not just relying on being a pocket passer or game manager or just relying on his feet. It's being able to implement both, which is everybody's goal, I understand. But I don't think it's like an organizational role that athletic quarterbacks who are maybe run first instead of pocket passers is where they have to go for quarterback.
I agree. You don't want an RG3, but Josh Allen is, although Josh loves to run, but Josh Allen's what the Steelers are looking for. They're
Right.
looking for a guy who could move, but at the end of the day, he's going to throw the football and he's going to throw it real well. Chris has another one here. Guys, I know it will never happen, but if the Steelers want to prove they're all into me, then bring in Aaron Donald on a 1-year deal. Hell yes. I talked to, not recently, I want to say like February, maybe something like that. Talked to somebody in no, it was March. It was March. I was at it was right at the end of the NFL Combine. Talked to somebody in Aaron Donald's camp, and that dude is loving life. So I don't think there's any chance he's coming back to the NFL. That dude's enjoying every moment of retirement. He's a guy that left feeling very fulfilled. Multiple defensive player of the year, one of the greatest defenders of all time, still healthy, and he's won a Super Bowl. The guys just said, yeah, you know what? I've checked the boxes. This sounds great. Let's go and be a dad and make a boatload of money doing other things. And I think he's pretty good. I don't think Aaron ever comes back to the NFL. That being said, if he chose to, I'd bench anybody on the roster for him tomorrow and say, yeah, this is your spot now. This is your job. That was owned by Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Derek Harmon. I don't care. That's your job now. You could have that. So shout out to Aaron Donald. But I think he's doing all right. I think
he's never coming back. I do want to shout out real quick in my past life, I did some work with 8099, he and his wife's nonprofit. They're an incredible organization and they help so many children in the area. So if you're looking for something to support, would absolutely look into Aaron Donald and his family's charity work.
I think it's hilarious. Every year, I get like my tax statement or whatever, and us as a company, obviously, like we donate. Every company should be donating. But those are the two companies we donate to are Aaron Donald's and Cam Hayward's because they're the local they're the local ones. Once in a while, we'll switch it up. Like Alex Highsmith has a phenomenal foundation we like to get involved in, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the year, when we changed accountants last year, they came to me and they're like, what are these two things and why do you buy so much of them? And I was like, they're just charities. She was like, I was wondering. She's like, I don't know what 98 is. She's like, but I just figured that's how many you bought. I said, all right, thanks. You're a good accountant. We're not together anymore if you could guess. But shout out to Aaron Donald for real. Justin here. That second and fourth for Ramsey and Hill I mentioned last week was with all in best offer mentality. We need another power punch. Second and a fourth for Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill. Look, if they were willing to take on contract, if the Dolphins were willing to take on contract and say, we'll take some money here, things will be fine. And we'll give them both to you for a second and a fourth. If you took on some contract money, I think I'd say, okay. I think I would. I think if the Steelers looked at it and said, let's go try to win a Super Bowl and it's not going to kill our salary cap space over the next 2 years, it's got to be more than this year. You're not just taking on this year's contract. I want some of next year's contract taken on as well. A fourth for Jalen Ramsey. I don't think that he's like a long-term guy, but if you get him for a year for cheap, awesome. And then you figure out next year, Tyreek, you're going to have to take on more than 1 year of a contract. Like you're going to, Miami's taking on a lot this year, good chunk next year, and then we'll be okay. Second and a fourth, I think I'd get it done if that was the case.
I think especially in like the vein of this conversation of what does all in sort of mean for the Steelers. Yeah, I don't think it's like the best value on paper, but taking the money out of it and taking the contractual sort of manipulation that would be involved to make this deal work, I think that's a fair all-in move for the Steelers to make. And that instantly you look at that offense and you're like, Aaron Rodgers can throw to Tyreek Hill or DK Metcalf on any play. Jalen Ramsey's in the slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like a Super Bowl contender much more than, the Steelers we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Your roster's pretty okay if that
Mhm.
was the kid. Plus, everybody will be like, "Oh, well, does Aaron have the?" Who cares, dude? I could throw it deep and just hope that Tyreek Hill and Calvin Austin, DK Metcalf, somebody's going to be running open. We'll figure it
Mhm.
out somewhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good times for sure. Maddie here. What do you think about signing Tyler Boyd? We dumped into that. I apologize. Didn't read it before I hit it. Got another one here. How much would Tyler Boyd go for? Any update on why is Terry McLaurin becoming more of a possibility? Do you guys have any new hot takes? Maddie with okay, so there's a guy that works for the Trib. His name's Tim Benz. Tim's the man, dude. He's the man. He's taught me a bunch. Great human being, phenomenal journalist. He's a Maddie. He's when you listen to Tomlin on Tuesdays, he'll come in here and he'll ask a question, and then it'll have 4 questions in it. And then Tomlin calls him out sometimes. He'll be like, that was a good 3-parter. Thanks for that one. I appreciate it. Maddie, dude, sneaking them in there. 1, 2, making sure we're all in. I love it. I think Tyler Boyd would go for a 1-year vet minimum contract.
Right.
$2 million max. I think that's what you're getting for Tyler Boyd. I don't think you're getting anything with that. TJ Watt, like I said, I have heard that nothing is happening, but the full expectation right now is that, and things could change, but the expectation is that they're going to make him the highest paid defensive or the highest paid edge rusher, defensive player, I think, in the NFL, as he deserves. I don't think Terry McLaurin is becoming more of a possibility where we sit today for the same reason that TJ Watt is not any closer to signing a deal. It's just that everybody's on vacation. There's not much going on. You get closer to training camp. That's when that starts to, the ball could get rolling. And again, like, we're too early to know if it's going to roll in the right or the wrong direction for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the door is open for sure. The door is open for him to become a real trade possibility for any NFL team. And new hot takes. You got any new hot takes?
No, I don't, Maddie. Sorry to be disappointing on a Monday morning, but do you know what? I'll kick it back to you while I try to ponder one.
I have no football hot takes today because there is just nothing. You know what I mean? It'll be July 1st tomorrow. There's nothing going on right now. My hot take is this. I had Aldi's popcorn yesterday, like the bag of popcorn, like the, big bag or whatever. I don't know what it's called. I had it at my mother-in-law's house. I ate the entire bag in one sitting, opened it to close. It was the best pot. Anybody who shops at Aldi, which I don't shop at Aldi. I don't grocery shop, just to be really honest. That's my wife thing. She I try, I don't know if it's like that in your house. In my house, Sunday morning, wake up, look all fancy and nice, and then go, like, this got to be a cute shopping outfit. I've learned these things over the years. And then you're going to Trader Joe's, and I tried twice. I was like, I want to come. Like, this is great. Like, I would love this. This is really nice. Trader Joe's is the scariest place in the world. And the overwhelming feeling of being in Trader Joe's does not end until you leave. Not for hours afterwards. So I can't do it. But I will begin to shop at Aldi only because of this popcorn. So that's my hot take for the day. Best popcorn ever. Aldi's does slap. That's the only place I ever shopped out in Pittsburgh, because you guys don't have a Wegmans. So
yeah, Trader Joe's on a Sunday is legit terrifying. I won't say what day of the week we'll go to Trader Joe's, but it's definitely not Sunday, because that is social anxiety, which this person is plagued by. It is just triggered at all times because there's not enough space. And I'm like, I'm getting closed in. I'm gonna get stuck in the freezer aisle in Trader Joe's. It's tough.
Yep. You just feel like you're pissing everybody off. Go ahead.
Yes, exactly. And this is I had a wonderful Uber driver yesterday.
Beautiful.
And she and it started as a conversation about all of the bumpy roads in Pittsburgh and sort of like, how can that be fixed? It eventually turned into me being informed about why the Rapture is coming soon, which I was like, as a journalist, I was like, please tell me. I was like, yes, tell me more. Yes. What should I do to prepare? Like, how can I find peace in my final days? Like, I was just like egging her on the entire time. My hot take, Rapture is probably not coming soon. I don't know. Maybe check in with your Lord. or whoever you pray to in the meantime, just in case I'm wrong. But hot take coming in, I think we're going to be around for a little bit.
I hope so. What a phenomenal,
at least for training camp. You know what I mean?
If we're going to be honest, I would have rode that Uber ride the whole way, and I would have let that person get so deep into explaining to me what is happening. I do it all the time. I do it all the time. Like all the time. If an Uber driver or anyone really has an opinion, I want to see that through. I want to see all of your opinion. I want to know exactly why this thing is real by the end of this car ride.
It's incredible.
I agree. All right, let's keep it trucking here. I'm MF tired. If you had to pick a free agent wide receiver to sign, who would it be? And if you had the option to make a realistic wide receiver trade, who would it be? Free agent wide receiver. The free agent wide receiver I'd sign is Gabe Davis if he's healthy. And the one I would trade realistically for is Chris Olave. I think that also fits the bill. I think there are arguments for other names, but those would be the two in my head.
Yeah, I think the only thing I slightly disagree is like how realistic Olave feels today. I think for the season, he does make the most sense as the most realistic fit, but because I'm not so sure of like where things stand right now, and because we've been, preaching that like everyone's in sort of a waiting game, I think someone who feels a little bit more realistic is Romeo Doubs, and I continue to bang the drum for that being a little bit more realistic right now. Not saying that will continue to be, but I think if you land Romeo Doubs or Chris Olave, you have a very good shot at having a legitimate wide receiver too.
I agree.
Gabe Davis, sure. Honestly, I think I would prefer to see them bring in Tyler Boyd, just because, again, like I don't think anyone from the free agent market is going to come in and make any more of an impact than being a wide receiver 3 in terms of production. So
yeah.
Pick your poison.
Pick your poison for sure. Pittsburgh Hornets here. Jacob, how would you rate the Penguins draft?
Oh man, B+ for sure. Couple of guys that Kyle Dubas, the Pens GM, is like a madman, and he works in very strange ways. I have a theory about what he's trying to do in the long run, but
I like it.
I really like their second first-round pick forward, Bill Zonin. He's gonna, if anyone goes to like development camp or likes to go to preseason hockey games, you'll get the chance to watch him, and you'll be like, that guy is a Pittsburgh Penguin that I will love for the next decade.
I love it.
But yeah, besides that, I think they had like 10 or 11 picks, so lots of talent added to the prospect pool. Got to like what they're doing. They're going to be really bad this upcoming year, though, so just be prepared for
it. As Pittsburgh sports they're in a great spot, but the Pirates scored 30 runs this weekend against the Mets.
Yes,
so shout out our boy Jack Markowski. He'll be on the show eventually. He's our third in our trio of the Pittsburgh Steelers and who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers for on SI, and he's a massive Mets fan. So shout out my guy. Hope he had a good
tough weekend for him.
Yeah. Cody Silva here. Can DK hold up as wide receiver 1 without getting hurt? Last year, Jackson Smith-Njigba was their number 1 easily. If DK gets injured, if teams double him, things could go south fast. I agree. I think this is why you need another guy. You can't bank on Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson and Ben Skoranek and Robert Woods to be the guys if DK goes down. I think you need somebody else to be out there. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are well aware of this situation. I also think that's their driving force, to be honest. I don't think the driving force is Calvin good enough? Is Roman going to be good enough? Is Robert, is DK enough to be a true number 1? No, I think all those answers are yes. But I also think that if one guy goes down and it's DK, they're in a lot of trouble. And I think they're aware of that.
100%. They are 100% aware of that. I think you and I disagree on how willing they are to change that.
No. I think that you think they're less willing.
I think they're just not gonna, So
I'm so like, if they don't do it, we'd have to make some sort of bet, like that, whether or not it's going to happen, but we'd have to think on the bet because like, it can't be something, I've worked too hard to shave off the mullet at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like
I could never do that to you, bud.
Yeah. It'd have to be something realistic here. So we'll figure it out, but I think we are going to have to at some point jump on this bet for sure. Robert here, shout out becoming a member of the AST Nation. Make sure that you're calling into the call-in show on Wednesday. I'm looking for a rocking episode. Last week's was awesome, so shout out to you guys. Macaroni salad, digging the Fern. Shout out to Fern. Hope your ghost likes it. Haven't heard much about her in a while. You burn some sage. No, to be honest, this has been my and maybe ruffle some feathers. Who the fuck cares? Excuse my language. She pisses me off. We're gonna be honest. I'm not a fan of her. I don't think she's a fan of me. We're fine. This has been my tactic in this situation. I've completely removed her from everything. If her mail shows up, I don't touch it. I leave it in the mailbox for a week until they take it away. I do not care. There's nothing about it. There was a something in the basement with everybody's like initials on it or whatever, and I carved it out of the concrete because I was like, this is not, I want everybody gone. I want it all gone. So crazy, definitely, but I don't care, man. I was so
you can't show fear.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Exactly.
I needed to let this lady know that you're messing with me, my cats, and my wife, man. And I'll throw hands at a ghost. You know, like there's no part of me that won't throw hands at a ghost. No doubt about it. Justin, once again, I keep hearing I'm tearing up over here. I keep hearing the Gabe Davis name as practical and makes sense, but does he put fear in defenses? Does he weaponize our offense? I think if he's just as good as he was in Buffalo, which I think he's got an opportunity to be, I think Trevor Lawrence is not as good of a quarterback as Aaron Rodgers is. I think the Jacksonville offense last year was not that great. And he was obviously dealing with injuries. If he's as good as he was in Buffalo, I think he's a guy that you have to pay attention to. He doesn't remove a double team from DK Metcalf. He doesn't make sure that if DK goes down, your offense is a slightly better, but you don't have a number one. You know, you're number one less if DK goes down. So I want to say the answer to put fear in defenses is no. I think he's somebody that could work in the offense, but I also think that's why they didn't sign him, because they want to get a look at him and they're aware of the situation, but they're slow rolling this because, you know, they need backup plans, but they're not jumping the gun on a move, and they have no intentions of jumping a gun on a move. And if you ask Jake, they're not going to do it at all.
Exactly. Yeah. If you ask the Oracle over here, I don't think he puts a lot of fear into defenses. Injuries, I think, sort of like put a huge wash over any sort of reputation that a player had before then, unless they are just like one of the elites in a position. So I think Gabe Davis has a lot of sort of like, he's being overlooked right now. And I think if he were to join the Steelers offense, I would acknowledge that there is some possibility for him to help weaponize the offense, because I agree with Noah completely in the sense that as a defense, you don't look at DK Metcalf and Gabe Davis and instantly think, well, oh man, we got to make sure both are covered because otherwise one's going to beat us. But to the Steelers' advantage, it would still put all of the emphasis and focus on DK Metcalf. But I do think Gabe Davis, if healthy, can take advantage of that, and he can make a defense pay by getting open in single coverage or beating a zone or something like that. So I think he could be a helpful addition. That does not strike a lot of optimism into me to be like, well, if he's healthy and maybe he has a good day, and if it doesn't rain 6 days out of the week, he's going to be a good wide receiver. I just don't really want to have all of those factors and variables in my wide receiver too. I want someone who I believe in 120%.
I agree. I think that's what they missed last year, and that's what they want this year. And again, we disagree. We'll come up with a bet, but I think that at some point they're gonna end up with it.
I'll fight the ghost.
But this is the first time we're talking about her in a while. Shout out to Macaroni Salad, because it means that something's gonna happen. You know what I mean? It means something's gonna happen. WWE tonight. You WWE guy?
Yeah, I'm actually going.
What? That's crazy.
If anyone's gonna be there, come find me.
That's awesome. Where it's at PPG, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it's at PPG. They're filming Raw and SmackDown at this tonight, which I did not know before I bought tickets for it. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch wrestling for like 6 hours tonight.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty. It's not live, is it? Like they'll film it and then it'll air in like a week or two.
I think Raw is live tonight, but it's at an earlier start time. But they're taping SmackDown for Friday, if I'm correct.
That's super awesome.
So yeah.
That's
I'll give you all the secrets I'll dish tomorrow.
Yeah, for real. Hope you enjoy it. I used to be a WWE guy growing up, not so much anymore. But my in-laws, my brother-in-law, my father-in-law are super into it. So whenever I'm over there, I'm just sitting on the couch and just like, usually like it's hilarious because they're like getting real into it, like talking, and I'm just sitting there just going like, wow, dude, I would love to fight these guys. This would be so awesome. I'm just gearing up. I'm taking mental notes for the ghost. That's what I'm doing. David here, is it worth? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. You got
No,
a
I was
good
just gonna say
story.
my mother-in-law one time, I love my mother-in-law more than everything. She one time said to me, just like straight down the barrel, she was like, "You know it's not real, right?" And I was like, "Lisa, I love watching people sing.
Yeah.
I don't think musicals are real. I don't think I'm actually watching, a guy singing in the rain in real life right now, but I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
enjoying it.
I watch
Yeah, I'm
Netflix
pretty
all the
sure.
time.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure that guy who just got thrown through a table didn't get forcibly thrown through that table.
Yeah.
He might have
Yeah. But
helped, but
I
it
was gonna
still
say
hurts that man.
that's
Like what are we doing?
that's what you got to point out to
Yeah,
first off, you should have ran with it. You should have been like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, it's real. Like, what do you John Cena is the world champion. What are you talking about, bro? Like,
he'll kill everyone in a fight.
yeah, like what are you talking about?
He's the
But
Marine.
I also think people like that don't get it, like, need to understand like that's definitely real enough.
Mhm.
Like you just dove through a table, real enough. David here, is it worth waiting until trade deadline to pull the trigger on a wide receiver? I think that's too far, to be
Mhm.
honest. That's how you end up with a Mike Hilton or Mike Williams again.
Right.
I would say this week 1 is my deadline for the Pittsburgh Steelers on when it makes sense. Like before week 1, really the end of the preseason, but you never know. If they were to make a move, what's your deadline for them?
I think I think it's pretty close to what you're suggesting. I think it has to be before they actually play any games. Otherwise, that all-in mentality becomes overpay mentality, and you have to give up more than you want for a player that won't give you the results that you're expecting. So, I think you have to take advantage of teams before they feel like they really, their things are going well for them, because hypothetically, what if the Saints go 3-3 or something in the first 6 weeks? Like they might not be ready to fully give up. They might think that, Tyler Shuck is the quarterback of the future out of nowhere or something like that. So all of a
Yes,
sudden, maybe you could have made this deal in, mid-July. So I think the end of August is like the absolute latest that I would like to see them make a trade if they're going to do it.
yes,
Otherwise, I think again, you're risking just like putting yourself really behind the 8 ball, putting yourself in a tough negotiating position. So I think it's really within the next, 6 to 8 weeks is when they have to strike a deal.
I agree. I agree. Couple of wide receiver questions to follow that one. Shower curtain. If Saints don't deal Olave, would they deal Rahid Shaheed? And would he be a good fit? I don't know. If I have no idea if they would try to move on from Shaheed. I will say that I think Shaheed's a stud who doesn't have a
Mhm.
quarterback since never had a quarterback, but I think that dude could do so much more than just run 60 yards down the field. I mean, I'd like him. I think, to be honest, yeah, I think he'd be a wide receiver too that I'd be comfortable with if we're gonna be real. I think he fits the bill.
Yeah, I would have no. That's someone who presents a lot of excitement, a lot of upside. I feel the need for Shaheed. So yeah, I'd be down for it.
I agree. I like Shaheed. I think he's a decent name. Jim here. What do you guys think about trading TJ to Green Bay for Romeo Dobbs, a first and a fourth?
No.
Is
No,
there any trade that you would make for TJ Watt?
no. No. It has nothing to do with getting value for him. It's just like that's your franchise player. You have the only way I would deal him is if there was some sort of not unmendable like sort of fracture between the two sides. If there was something like the Steelers lowballed him so hard on a contract offer that he was like, I'll never play another down for the Pittsburgh
Yeah,
Steelers, then you go get value. But barring that happening, there's nothing you would really offer me that would make me feel even make me even consider trading TJ Watt right now.
I agree. All right, got a couple more here on the wide receiver front. Christian Watson or Traylon Burks? Traylon Burks is bad. So I think we can rule him out as a
Mm-hmm.
possibility. He is not a good wide receiver these days. Just looks, just not good. He looked worse than Tyler Boyd last season, which is not great. Christian Watson, a guy who deals with a lot of injuries. I could see his name coming up if the Packers are looking to trade somebody and aren't looking to move on from Dobbs or Wicks or whoever. I could see his name coming up.
He does feel the most expendable from Green Bay's perspective. Because again, like you have Golden, you have Wicks, you have Dobbs, who are probably more reliable and have more upside from their point of view. At least that would be my opinion. And I think that makes Christian Watson a little bit more expendable given the injury history, but it also could work more in the Steelers' favor potentially, because you could probably get him you would get him much cheaper than anyone else that you're probably trying to go after in Green Bay. So open to it. Traylon Burks, no, you giving up anything for him would be a colossal mistake. If you want to bring him in when he gets cut, sure, fine, whatever. But there's no use in trying to like spend time or assets on him.
I agree. Smootest Smoothie on a new account now in school for my job in the Navy. Will be a year or so until I graduated and head out into the fleet. Shout out Smoothie Booty, as always. Appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're settled in. I hope school's going well and smooth. And I hope you're kicking ass in the Navy, man. You still got all of us behind you, supporting you. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped that you're back, to be honest with you. Been a long time. Miss you. Your name's come up so many times. If you go back through all these episodes, I think you're an every other day mention on All Steelers Talk. So much so that family members of mine know you. So shout out, my friend. I hope you're doing well. All rooting for you as always. Duranimal here. I like what you guys are saying, but who is actually available to fit what you guys are saying for all-in concept for a wide receiver? At least nobody really sticks out to me, but I'm no expert. Who's the all-in guy that fits the bill for the Pittsburgh Steelers? If there is one.
I hate to be so redundant and keep using the same name, but I think Chris Olave, just if you watch him, watch what he does best, watch where he excels in terms of size, is a nice sort of counter, little balance to DK Metcalf. There's so many things about Chris Olave's game makeup potential that make him the ideal wide receiver too for an Arthur Smith, Aaron Rodgers led offense. He feels like the overall best fit, the only player who could reasonably and for the long term fill that role, at least in my mind. Noah, do you feel any differently?
No, I think right now where we stand, he's the guy that fits the bill. I think Romeo Dobbs could become available. I think Wicks could become available, and there's arguments to be made there. But I think the list is very narrow where we sit right now. I think it'll expand, but I agree with you, Duranimal. There's not really much going on that makes you say these guys are out there. We have to go, you have to go get them. I just don't know if that's the case. Marlon Lewis here. If we go into the season with this current roster, no trades, no free agent pickups, how comfortable are you with the team? I mean, we started the show, we finished our agenda by talking about how the Steelers view themselves as a team that's got to compete for a Super Bowl. Are they anywhere close to that right now?
No, they're not a Super Bowl contender right now, but they're a playoff team. So yeah, you have to upgrade this roster in some capacity in order to take the next step or truly be capable of taking it in 2025. So I'm not comfortable with this team at all as a Super Bowl contender if nothing happens, but I do stand by my belief that I think that is more likely what's going to happen. So yeah, are you any more confident, Noah?
No. I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers right now and just say they're a team that has a shot, that if everything clicks or anything happens that's out of the ordinary, maybe, but I don't view them. I'm not comfortable, but I don't think I'm comfortable with the wide receiver too. I'm comfortable with the potential. Like, I think, again, I don't view them. If Justin Fields was the quarterback and they were going to run the same offense as last year, I'd be a little nervous. Aaron Rodgers, anything could happen. I'm just going to say it. Anything could happen. And I think the roster is good enough to say they are certainly improved from a year ago. Is that enough? I don't know. I think we'll see. Jim, following up with a really intriguing one here that I'd love to address now. Only reason I asked about the TJ for Dobbs situation is because Packers Chat Sports, said yesterday Green Bay is reaching out to Pittsburgh, offering Dobbs with a 1st and 4th for TJ. I have not heard that. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I just feel as if I didn't get a phone call, text message, DM, something that said, hey, dude, just letting you know that this is on the radar. this conversation did happen, I feel as if that I'm not going to take that into consideration. Not yet. Not saying, obviously, Jim, you're not wrong. Packers Chat Sports might be. I'm not going to call anybody. I'm just saying I haven't heard a thing. And I'm always skeptical when I don't hear things. Always skeptical. All right.
If I was Green Bay, I'd make that offer and call for sure. Like I 100% get that from their perspective. Like you're like, oh, things might be going bad right now. Hey, you want to get rid of them? We'll throw you something. But
I'm going to be honest. If I'm going to be really, I'm not. I think the Steelers, that is a steal and a half to give up TJ for a first, a fourth, and Romeo Doubs.
For sure.
Like, I think that's a steal for the Steelers. Like, I think you just won that trade by a mile. I think for Green Bay, that's wild. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, if that's their missing piece, I understand. But you're giving up a first-round pick for a 34-year-old that you have to pay $40 million for, and a fourth, and your wide receiver too. That's so much going on right there.
Big
like,
haul.
that's a huge haul for a guy that I don't know. Guys, Houston has a ton of wide receivers. Thoughts? I think it's too early to guess who's going to be available, but I think somebody's going to be available. Whether that's, I don't think it's going to be Christian Kirk. I think Tank Dell's a name that's going to start emerging because he just can't stay healthy. But they are, like, John Mechie will be available, but I don't think that he really does anything for me anymore. There's going to be somebody that comes out of Houston that's on a different team this year. I'm almost certain of that. Like, they just have too many wide receivers, and I don't think it's going to be the guys that we've been talking about that really intrigue anybody. Like, I don't think it's going to be Christian Kirk, but I think Tank Dell could emerge. I think John Mechie could emerge. I don't think either of them. Tank's a great move. John Mechie, I don't think I'm making a move for.
No, Tank Dell would be a great addition. I agree with you. I think, if I am to concede that, the Saints are still waiting, maybe the Packers are still waiting, to see what's going on. I don't understand why the Texans would be in a different situation. Like, they have a very young quarterback who's been to the playoffs before. So, I mean, if there was, of those, three teams, I would probably have the most sort of hope for Houston, but I do agree that there's just way too many in the bunch. So something's got to give eventually. So hopefully the Steelers can take advantage if that happens.
If it does, if the right wide receiver becomes available, but again, you can't, John Mechie doesn't move the needle. He comes in here to be another Romeo Wilson or Roman Wilson, excuse me. Smootest Buddhist back up again. Why haven't they re-signed TJ Watt yet? Haven't kept up with the Steelers since before the draft. Should I be worried? No. Don't be worried. Everything I've heard is that TJ and the Steelers are going to get a deal done. It's just taking time. Right now, everybody's on vacation. Nobody's doing anything. When they come back, I expect the deal to get done, and I expect it to top Myles Garrett. I do. I don't think it's going to top it in guaranteed money. I don't think it's going to top it in overall money, but I do think that it's going to top it in yearly money, and I think TJ is going to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL come this season. Again, I've talked to both sides, sources on both sides, and nobody is worried about the situation. It's just a matter of this thing takes time and negotiations have to happen. And TJ can't be soft with it because he's trying to get a bigger check than normal. And last year it didn't work out in his favor. Last time it didn't work out in his favor. This time he's got to be a little bit more aggressive. So not super worried about it. Maddie here. Are we doing some sort of fantasy football thing? Still want to look into that. We're getting kind of close. I think, August is when you start draft. I'm not a drafter before the third preseason game. I don't do it. I can't. I just can't. I did it one time after week 2 of the preseason. My entire team got hurt. I'll never do it again. But we'll figure something out. I don't know if it's going to be a pick'em league. I don't know what it's going to be. There's a lot of people. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for sure. And then Pittsburgh Hornets. If you had to rename yourself in WWE fashion, what would it be? What's your wrestling name, my friend?
Wow. Pittsburgh Hornets. It would be, I think I would get really into luchador, and I would put on a mask and you would never know it was me, but you would maybe be able to recognize me by my chubby belly. So it would be something maybe regarding that, like the big panda or something like that. And then I would have $50,000 worth of pyrotechnics every time I entered the ring. And then I would probably get squashed in a match within 10 seconds each time too. But the entrance would be epic. And that's what I bring. Yeah.
I think I'd go simple. with like a big strack or something, you know?
Oh yeah.
That was my rap name when I was in high school, so I feel like it just sticks with me forever. And I think I'd ride a big Cadillac a black Cadillac into the stadium because it rhymes.
Yeah.
Big Strack in the black Cadillac. That was in all of my raps as well. So yeah, I think that's what I think that would be my name. I think that would Big Strack in the black Cadillac, and then we'd roll in. You'd need the hydraulics, obviously, and then I think I'd have some cats in the back, and we'd be hanging out. We'd have a good time. We'd have a good time. If not, I'd just go with like
cat attack in the Cadillac with Big Strack. My lord,
that's life. That's life. It's if this doesn't work out, you know what I mean. If the podcast fails for some reason, at least we have a backup plan. All right. With that said, guys, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Please go to Apple Podcasts, hit download all, and give us that 5-star review, especially if you want to talk Big Strack in the black Cadillac with all the cats. You know what I'm saying? And as always, find all of mine and Jacob's work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Fantastic Monday episode. Can't wait for tomorrow. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.